Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a wonderful, wonderful Monday night. I do want to thank everybody for taking time out of like 2 football games, right? Like it was bad enough when it was just Cubbie and I doing last week with 1 football game. Now there's 2 going on at the same time, and you're still tuned into us. Oh, you guys are special. You guys and ladies are all special. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Tonight we're answering questions, and we've got some questions. And if you've got some questions other than Keith, because what's good, peeps? Nothing. Those marshmallow things are horrible. But if you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If we can't get to them tonight, we'll add to our list.
Drop them into your cup of coffee that has pumpkin spice in it. Oh.
Basic white girl.
That's maybe because the sugar. I can't. I'm not a marshmallow person.
You gotta
find pumpkin spice.
You gotta find a way to melt them into something that becomes just incredible. And then of course they got different flavors of Peeps, so that that becomes something too. The watermelon Peep was really good.
With
you eat
spice?
Peeps?
Yeah, no, with the watermelon Peep. Don't you guys get out anymore? Do you just like stay home and like order like Domino's pizza and say, hey, this is it?
No, I'm out, but I don't eat Peeps.
So I'm not going to look for the different flavors.
Okay, I'll cross that question off about Peeps. Okay. So yes, we've got some questions here for mobile DJs tonight, and we're going to dig into that. If you do have any questions you'd like us to talk about a little bit, or if you've got some thoughts, put those into the chat, because we've got the chat window that is up and down below, and we can definitely chat about that and share your insights and thoughts to the different things we're going to be talking about. And of course, we're going to do this as we typically do. We're going to put a little divider in there because these do get broken down, and then they will be put up later on the YouTube channel as a short type of a thing. And there's a lot of folks that find the questions that way, and sometimes it's actually helped them a little bit. Sometimes it's just confused them. Most of the time it's just confused them. But there was that one person that so
they lied, but it's okay.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's get to our first question tonight. Our first question is, do you charge extra for putting sound in a second room? And I'm envisioning this question working the best when you have a main room and there's a side room, and you need to put a speaker of some sort in that room. So, gentlemen, do you charge extra to adding sound that's based off your same system, like you want the same music in that second room? Cubbie, go.
If I've already charged them an additional system for ceremony sound and I can just transfer it in there, then I would not charge them for extra sound in a room, because they've already paid for a second system. They can use it for ceremony and or a secondary room. If I did not do ceremony sound, I'm only doing reception only, and they do need to get sound into another room, yes, then I would charge to put a speaker into a secondary room.
If you would be a difference between wired to that room or going wireless, if you had that capability, would that matter, or would it just be based on the sound system itself?
Based on the sound system itself. Okay,
Dan.
Because go. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say. So I'll kind of be contradictory to that, and that is I usually don't charge for that piece. I do wireless, kind of like with Cubbie. I it's that extra speaker. And I think it also depends upon what I'm doing with that extra speaker. So case in point, like if it's just something that's going to be kind of subtly there, so if somebody's out there, they can hear what's happening, then I'm not going to charge for it. But if they need like a full big system, like a lot of sound in that other room, then I am doing something. So it kind of depends upon the level of need that's out there.
In my situation, I have gotten to the point with my mid to upper level show. I've got my bass show that I would just be 2 speakers and that's it type of thing, 2 Evolve 50s and off we go. But if I'm running the main shows we sell, they'll be the Evolve 50s, and I've been using Everse, 2 Everse in the same room, basically during the cocktail time, so I'm not having to have a really loud spot and the trying to get sound and microphones to the other end. Now, if I'm doing that and there's a second room and I can put a speaker in there, because I'm doing this all wirelessly with the Sennheiser packs, then I'm not going to charge. But if I have a situation like a barn wedding coming up here, where we're going to have the main part of the hayloft area of the barn, Then there's a second wing, and literally I'll have 4 speakers in the one, and then I'm going to have multiple speakers in the other one also. Now that's definitely because it's going to kind of fit under Cubbie's area, where it's a completely additional sound system. My bass sound system is the 2. My main sound system is the 2 mains, and then the E-verse 8s, which I absolutely love doing that. And then once the dance starts up, we just turn the E-verse 8s down a little bit. They're off. They're out of there. So about an hour into the dance, we're down to 2 speakers being the main run. It works wonderfully. This past weekend, excuse me, this past weekend at a venue, they were like, "Wow, we've never had microphone sound in this room this good before." That's why. So, but
I'm the greedy one.
no. Because when I get to that situation where I'm having to do more than just basically pick up a speaker. Again, this is all wireless. Pick up the speaker stand and go. There we go. And I'm not charging for that. But if I have to go and have a third wireless jump with additional speakers over there, oh yeah, there will be, and there is with that barn wedding that we're going to be doing. So.
And I think that's exactly the case. Like I'm throwing a battery powered speaker on a pole, and I'm connecting a Sennheiser belt pack, or I'm connecting one of the IEM systems if I have it set up for something else. It just makes it's quick in that aspect, and I think that's why. If I have to do a lot of work, or I'm taking up a lot of space with like a powered speaker of some sort, other than the battery power type, different story.
Exactly. Yep. I think really it becomes a time. Gear, yes, but also the time issue. All right, let's jump to our next question tonight. So the next question is about feedback. Someone is having problems with feedback with their microphones, and I wanted to just kind of throw this out there generically, and then I will go and actually address exactly their specifics. But when you have had feedback problems, what are some of the things that you have done over your career, or even in the moment, to try to help and such to eliminate feedback issues you've had? Dan, you'd be starting this one off this time.
So in the moment, I grab for any EQ possibility that I have on my channel. So a lot of times I had at least a high and a low. So if it was a screeching, I'd pull the tops back, and if it was a thudder, I'd pull the bass back, and that's about the only thing you could do in the moment. What I've done since is what I highly recommend, and that is having a digital mixer that you are plugging your microphones into, or your controller, as you're doing this. I do a Personas. I have a Studio Live 16R. It's a single rack mount type of box, and everything goes into there, and then I control it with my iPad. So I have the ability to do multiple EQ bands and adjustments, dropping out single frequencies or wide swaths of frequencies if I need to, if I'm getting the feedback, and it tells me or shows me where that feedback's happening, so I can use that. Some of the other ones out there, like the QSC Touch Mix 8, they actually have an EQ killer in them, feedback killer,
yeah,
suppression type of thing. That's a great way to kind of eliminate that possibility. Even the Roland 707, like that controller has a feedback suppression built in. It does make the set for if you're an audio perfectionist, it is going to sound different when it's not even having an issue. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that it's not like, oh, it's perfectly normal and all of a sudden the feedback's gone when I might have it. No, when the feedback, even when your mic's off, like you're still going to notice there's a little bit of a difference to the sound. But if you're routinely in places that could have those issues, any of those could be great features for you.
Cubbie, what have you been?
On the fly is exactly what Dan said, but I like to monitor my gains and then keep the channel higher, but keep my gains down low so that I'm not pushing like my gains way too high. And like I said, just keep my channel at a nice level. But if it's on the moment like Dan, then I make sure. But I haven't had that in a lot of time, in a lot of years having feedback lately. So I'm getting knock on wood. I just haven't had that happen recently.
And that's going to bridge into actually Brian Red. Thanks for being with us tonight, Brian. It mentions this at the latter part of his response here, that with the EV Evolve series, very kind of mics and feedback. Cubbie, when you haven't had as much feedback over the last number of years, what have you been running?
Evolve E50s.
Yes,
Evolve
exactly.
50s, yes.
And what kind of microphones are you running, by the way, Cubbie?
EVRE3s.
And it's not so much the EVRE3s, but it's a good quality microphone. And that's jumping back to the person who had posted this on Facebook, is that they were running a very inexpensive, lower level microphone from one of the manufacturers that is just not, it's known as not a really good quality element on the microphone. Pretty much every company has a variety of different element quality, and there's some that have a poor quality one, and some their entry level one or their poorest one is still better than the mid level in some other companies. It's really the quality of the microphone and the pickup that it can do, and the speakers and how the speakers are as Brian uses the phrase, that they're mic friendly. Yeah, the Verse Bose was when Bose came first out with their the cylindrical speakers, their line array or their mini array. They were literally Cap Capello was at it, and he would talk into the wireless microphone, and he would hold the microphone right next to the speaker, like within 10 inches of it. And he's like talking and going back and forth, and there's no squeaking coming from it. Those speakers, quality speakers, just there's something that they do, and I don't know what kind of voodoo it is, but they make it. They're much more microphone friendly. So,
but I will say, you can make them screech.
You can, yes. It's not. It isn't guaranteed.
Yeah, because I have the Evolve 50s, and I was having an issue with lapels, and lapels are different, right? They're going to be a different issue. But I was having lapels, and one of the things that Ben taught me to do, I'm still learning how to do it correctly, but he's tried to teach me a couple times, is the idea of ringing it out, like purposely getting a screech. Hold that microphone to it, make it screech, see that frequency. That's the frequency you need to take out with that particular mic. So, in that particular venue, wherever you might be. So that's something to keep in mind, is sometimes if you can make the screech happen ahead of time, you can prevent it from happening in the moment.
Exactly. It's better to try to do that when no one else is around to do that. One little quick thing is that another thing an audio guy recommended was on our eVerse and on every speaker, you can adjust the sub, how much output the sub is doing compared to the top. And what is one of the reasons why there's a low cut filter on microphones is sometimes that high or the squeal, the feedback you're getting is actually being prompted by the bass. You're hearing it up here, but it's prompted by the subwoofer. It's the weirdest thing. And on the eVerse, you can go in there and you can go to the sub gain, up or down, and you can take it down 3 or 4 dB. Yes, it's going to sound like there's a little bit less bass there, but in the right room situation where the room is too boomy, and that's causing that high pitched squeal. It's how it works. It's weird. I get it. It's more that voodoo, but taking that down a couple of notches on your subs can help feedback issues a lot. And as Brian says, mentions full range horns, the horn loaded full range speakers. The horns are tough. When you're in front of a horn, you're going to probably get something slapping back at you. So, all right, let's jump to our next question. Okay, we got a couple of questions from the chat. Thank you guys for putting those in there. The first one we're going to talk about, guys, is talking about aesthetics, using moving heads for mounting moving heads to doing it on maybe a totem. We've all seen the totems. Does a totem or a moving heads best to put them on truss? Some people will put them on a pole, like the flex stands. What are your opinions when it comes to moving head fixtures in a setup? Which one do you find the most aesthetically pleasing? And I think, Cubbie, you're first this time.
Man, I don't have any, but I think aesthetically pleasing would be the flat base and the totem. I've seen scrims on the top of them. They throw a light on the underneath, so it lights a white scrim around the totem, and then it lights up the totem, and then they throw the moving head on top, and I think that looks gorgeous. I don't use them, I don't do them, but I think that I love the look of that. Dan?
So I saw who asked this question, so I'm going to say it was whatever makes it the ugliest. No, he's just like 2 blocks from me, so I have to kid because I can. I'm with Cubbie though. I understand the pole piece, and I can understand kind of the mentality, but it makes me think of a lollipop, right? long stick and you got this big moving head on top. Like if you had something that was smaller, that might be different. But I would also say like when I do monograms, I put that on top of one of those like flex stand type ideas. And if there's a lot of movement, that pole wants to waver just a little bit, not to where like the pole's going to move, but just to where I can see it. I can't imagine a moving head with the motion that it does not creating some sort of a problem there. Not like it's going to tip or anything like that, but not being the best thing for the weight and that kind of piece from it. But John, you probably have a different view because I think you've done something like this before.
I've done actually all methods. I've had, trussing as far as like a made trussing. We've hung them there. I like the look, but it's just time consuming, and it becomes it for a wedding. I think it's too much. I love the idea with the totems, the glow totems. I think that's fabulous. I like to have 2 shorter glow totems and 2 longer glow totems. That's my preferred look. But I've used tripods and put them on tripods because that's what we had. We didn't have anything else at the time. That one I think looks the corniest. But once the lights are out, nobody knew. Nobody really paid attention. It was, if they were back, and because I wanted to have moving heads at different heights in the back, as far as, like I think we went high, lower, and lower, and we had 3 tiers of the moving head for heights and back. But the flex stands, because we have those, we are utilizing those, and we're using those at times where we want to put a moving head fixture to make it look like, or so it's perceived to be like on top of the speaker. Because I don't want to put it on top of the speaker, because now we're into 18-inch subs or dual 18-inch subs, and then a pole, and then the 15-inch 2A top. I mean, there's enough room, yes, but I don't want that vibration of the speakers going into that moving head, because that's going to shorten the life of the moving head. So if I put the flex stand right behind the speaker and put the light up there, so it's just about, just right at the height of the speaker, from the front, it looks like it's sitting up on top of the speaker. It looks like it fits, and there's nothing really that you notice. From the back, you can see, it's about 8 inches behind the speaker, whatever, 8-10 inches. So it's protecting the speaker, the light from the vibrations and such, but it gives you that look that there's the 2 moving head fixtures that are on top of the speakers to scan the room. But I would go back to, if you don't do it for that reason, the totems, glow totems, all day long. They're just, and we've got the Pro X ones where you can pull the pins out and you can adjust the heights on those things, and then when you're done, you take the top plate off and the bottom plate, put them in the bags, and off you go. So we can do it in a small car. I made the mistake. My very first totem I bought were the what are they, 2 meter, the 2 meter one.
And global trust.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do you
like the box style that
it doesn't fit in my truck. It was like, okay, so if we're going to use it, we have to either strap it to the top of the truck or some. I don't, what I was thinking.
And that's exactly why I don't have any, because the car, the sim that I had and the car that I have, it would never accommodate those.
Well, but the collapsible ones, I think, as John said, like that's really the way to go anymore. You get it, it gets so small that it really makes it easy to use if you're wanting to get into moving heads, like if I and getting into the truss towers. Like if I was going to go back and do it now, 100% I would pick those up, because it saves time. I mean, I think even setup is quicker than having to hammer those freaking pins in, and everything else.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump to our next question tonight. So our next question, would you introduce someone who is not in the wedding party? The bride and groom wanted you to introduce the wedding party, and that's pretty much the head table, and you're done. But their situation in the chat, they've had the groom wanted his sister introduced who wasn't at the head table. Would you introduce someone who's not at the head table like that? And I think, are we back to you, Dan?
Sure, I think we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be willing to. Especially if that's something that the couple's, looking for. We introduce parents. Sometimes, the couple might even have a kid, and so that gets introduced. And I know you're like, you could argue, well, parents are, different circumstance than maybe a sibling, but in the same respect, you could, if you're introducing, you could do it in that same time period. Now, in the same respect, if I had a couple that was, I saw the question come in, if they're trying to find a reason not to, I could make one up, but I don't see any reason why not to otherwise.
That would be funny. Do you want to? If you don't,
Yeah.
Blink once if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want me to push mom away so that I don't introduce the sister. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would, yeah, it's a very sensitive subject. It's a very sensitive situation that we sometimes have to tiptoe around and keeping moms and dads and everybody happy. I'd go along the line of maybe introducing his sister as a personal attendant who's not sitting at the head table. This personal attendant this afternoon was, the group sister, kind of like lead into that. But yeah, I would do it if that's what they wanted. And same with you, Dan. I had a situation a couple weeks ago where it was the best man's, it was the brother of the groom, his birthday on Tuesday. I'm like, his mom wants me to mention it. Do you want me to? She goes, why can't it just be our week? So I took the heat and told the mom at the end of the night, oh crap, I forgot to mention his birthday. I'm so sorry. So it didn't fall on the bride who said no. It was the dumb DJ who forgot to mention the best man's birthday. Because I don't want to throw the bride underneath the bus when she said, God, could it ever just be about us? Right. So same thing along the lines as Dan. You do what you can to protect your couple. If they don't want to do it, then I'll be the bad guy and be, oh crap, I forgot all about it. Or like I said, if they do want it, just kind of find a way that makes it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the introduction. I usually am pretty animate. I want whoever's going to be at the head table because we were doing some sort of either an upbeat introduction, something to that effect. So if there's going to be anyone who's introduced, I would prefer to do that before we even start the main introductions. Like, before we get the wedding party introduction, I want to just acknowledge the parents tonight. I've got, Bob and Phyllis here. Bob and Phyllis, of course, have been married for 35 years, and they have got our lovely bride tonight is their daughter, that kind of a thing. But I want to do that beforehand because I don't want to have it where I'm trying to squeeze someone into that wedding party line. That it just doesn't work because you get them up there to the head table and they're standing there and then they have to go sit down in another spot and it looks kind of dorky. It's almost like the walk of shame is the way I kind of view it. So I just would rather find a way to work around it.
And I guess it all depends on. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, we have so many weddings now that don't even have head tables. Like there's a sweetheart table and then everybody else is kind of sitting elsewhere. Likewise, if kind of the thought of the parents, like they're not at the head table. So depending upon how you go about it, my bet with this situation, and again, I don't know the personal piece here, but my bet would be most of the family members are in the wedding. You've got the parents, you've got maybe a brother that's the best man, and whatever, and you've got the lone sibling that doesn't have a role in this wedding, and mom doesn't want her left out. That's my gut on this one.
Could be, yeah.
And that's another reason why I would be like, you know what? Let's throw him a bone. Let's introduce him with the parents. Let's make it a part of a family piece, right? She's not left out. She's not the the black sheep of the family because she didn't get mentioned. Sorry, Cubbie, you were saying.
Yeah,
I guess it goes along. When did they ask? Was it at the planning meeting? Was it the day of? Was it thrown on you? And once again, not knowing the whole situation, planning meeting, we can adjust, night of, we could do it, but then you might have to get the other brothers and sisters from the groom's side if you're doing the family.
That's when Cubbie pulls out his little credit card tip thing. We can do it.
We can make it happen. Just Venmo me.
Yeah,
right here. Here's my QR code.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's jump to the next question there, guys, tonight. Somebody was asking a question in the chat about storage of mobile DJ gear. How do you store your equipment? Now, we're all from the northern half of the United States, so our answer is going to be a little bit different than someone who might be in the very southern part of the United States, or someone who's even farther north than I am, which basically puts you in the Arctic Circle. So we're going to be in that range. So storage of gear. Year-round, if you have a difference between your summer storage and your winter storage, let's talk about that. But Cubbie, I think you're up first. How do you handle the storage of your DJ gear?
A lot of it stays in my garage up until I get extreme cold, and then then I'm generally not working as much. So then I bring it inside downstairs to the basement. But a lot of times it'll sit in the garage throughout the spring, fall, winter. But when it gets extreme cold, I'll definitely bring all the insides for the components and things so that I don't. So when you do take it out in the wintertime, it doesn't. When you go to plug it in, it doesn't fry. It takes a while for it to. You want it to cool
Dry.
down to room temperature before plug it in. But yeah, that's basically what I do is just store it. They sit in warehouses. I mean, Ben stows in Bemidji, Minnesota. I don't know what it gets pretty cold up there. I don't know what kind of heat he has in there. So, I mean, these things go in trucks. Speakers are transported in trucks, and it's cold across the Colorado stuff in the wintertime when they transport them and in non-heated trailers. So, I think they've got to have some sort of safety net in them in storage in warehouses and things that may not be heated. So that's what I do. Extreme cold, bring them inside, leave them outside for the rest of the time.
Dan?
So very similar, except for they're always in a non-temperature controlled environment. I used to worry about that, and then had the conversation. I don't even remember who it was, but very, very similar to what you mentioned, Cubbie, right? Like in the warehouses, they're not heated. In the transportation to get to you, they're not heated, or they're not cooled down in the shipping containers coming across the ocean. What they are, however, is dry. And that is where it's going to be key. So if you keep it in a non-temperature controlled environment, and even kind of that point, like I'll kind of take Cubbie's idea, like let's say assume cold winter months, I brought it inside. Now I go put it in my car to take it to, or in my trailer to take it to my event. It's going to get cold by the time it gets there. So the key is when you get to the event to make sure that you give it plenty of time to come up to that room temperature piece so that the moisture is not in there, or whatever moisture is there that might be in there is drying up before you plug it in and turn it on. That's going to make the big difference. And John, if I remember, because we've talked about this once or twice, and maybe personally, or maybe it's on the show, I don't remember, there's something you add to your gear during those humid type months, right?
Yep. I've got back when we were using trailers and such, we would have damp rid, a variation. It's a silicant type thing that's going to pull the moisture out of the air. Literally, I just got an order with some the other day again, because there's some gear that I store in we've got a storage container out here, and there's some things I put in there, and I basically put them in a plastic bag because we're not going to use them until next summer. Put them in a plastic bag, throw the pack of the damp rid stuff in there, and seal it up, and then it's going to be fine because it's going to be kept the moisture, because it's going to get cold, and that's not a big deal. The big, as the guys have talked about, it's that moisture when you bring it in. But if you're in a situation where you can't store your equipment indoors whatsoever, really the only thing that you have to have is a laptop. Everything else can get there, and it can be in a car, and it can be cold or whatever in a trailer. You just have to. It just takes more time. And there have been times where we've gone to a venue that had a pool, and like in a different part of the hotel, but it was within probably 2 doors of us, which meant that the humidity was higher, and we had to wait like an hour and a half because you could see the screens still had a little bit of fog on them, and it's like, well, we're waiting. Back in the days of CD players, we would open up the CD players, put a fan there, and turn the power back off, and let the fan blow through the CD players to warm them up. There were things you had to do to make those things work, but it's really the gear can get cold. It's just letting it dry out when it warms up again.
Also, the other thing I would add is batteries.
So anything with batteries.
Batteries in your stuff, especially warm months, right? You have the ability for them to explode. But during the winter months, from my understanding, it drains them a little bit faster if they're cold. So, anything that's running off of a battery type of situation, whether it's actual batteries or something that has a battery in it that you're going to be needing, that'd be something else I'd make sure you take in to a temperature controlled place while you're not using it.
Yeah, the battery, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, this past weekend we had 16 battery operated lights, I think, that were running. And yeah, you wouldn't leave those out in the trailer, because especially after they've been run and they've been run down a little bit, you leave them in a trailer in our Minnesota 20 below weather and they'll be dead, but those batteries will be frozen by the next weekend. So definitely don't want to deal with that. So, all right, let's jump to our next question. So I've been seeing a lot of questions about lav mics on the Facebook groups, and we're going to talk about guys, do you use lav mics when it comes to outdoor ceremonies? It seems like everybody's doing an outdoor ceremony these days, and every officiant or everyone wants to, have that lav mic, where's the microphone? I can hear them, but I don't see the microphone. That kind of a world, how do they do that? That's what they're after. But there's something called reality. So I just want to start off with, guys, do you have a lav mic that you use when it comes to wireless or to outdoor ceremonies? Dan? No, Cubbie, I think we're back to you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yes, I do use lav mics. And we talked earlier about the brands that I use EV RE3s. They're amazing. I love them. I have no problem with them whatsoever. I'm not a fan of putting a wired microphone on a mic stand in front of it. It blocks the faces of the bride and the groom. If they do have them, if I do have an officiant, he may be new, I'll just show him how to take the lavalier off his jacket. If the bride and groom are reading their own vows, I then ask them to take the lavalier off and just hold it back and forth as they're reading their vows, and just slip it right back on, and then continue with the ceremony. If they're doing a repeat after me, it's omnidirectional, so they are picking up the bride and groom, not as loud as the officiant, but they are picking him up, and plus they're repeating at the officiant, so it's not like they're saying anything different that the people are already hearing originally. So yes, I do use lav mics for outdoor ceremonies.
Mm-hmm. Dan.
100%. So I always take 3 mics with me to a ceremony. I have the lav mic that I will put on the groom. I have a mic that I have on stand for any readers or singers along that line. So do have it as also kind of my backup in case I'm having problems with the lav, because I have noticed sometimes, depending on the venue, they tend to be a little bit hotter. So if I run into a situation where I just can't get that frequency to just die without feedback, sometimes I'll grab the mic on a stand. But for my officiant, I do a countryman. So belt pack, lav-esque type piece, but over the ear, right? The Rockstar mic that comes in the front. It's funny that you brought this up, John, because I was actually talking with Lou Paris today. He's been known to mic the bride, and I've really been considering it. For the longest time, I had brides that were more vocal, so they would get picked up by their partner's mic that they'd be wearing. Or even sometimes the officiants. Lately, I don't know if they're getting quieter or if I'm just more sensitive to it, but it's like, if it's bride and groom, groom's loud, officiant's loud, bride's really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been really debating on finding a way, or offering, maybe offering is a better option, to mic the bride.
Sure.
And I know there's DJs that are watching this that are going, that is way too involved. You don't need to worry about that. You might not want to, but I feel like it's taking it to the next level.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I own the RE system. I've got the handheld mics. I bring 2 handhelds and 2 lav and 2 receivers, so we can have a combination, whatever those 2 receivers we want to have. But this was Saturday. Where am I at? There we go. This was Saturday, and you won't be able to see it because I can play the video, but we're out on a hill, and there's a lake, and we've got 1,000 million acres around us, and that wind is coming in about 12 miles an hour, but it's hitting that hill and accelerating up to the top of the hill. So now we're up on top of this hill, and the lav mics, no matter what I did with them, sounded like a hurricane. We were doing the CBS update from the middle of the hurricane. That's what it sounded like. So we went to the handheld. Every ceremony that we've done this summer has been that way. I just opened those lav mics to pull them out and plug them in and get them set, to get the gain set, and I haven't touched them. I haven't used the belt pack set all this whole season. And I think between Michael and I think we've done 7 or 8 ceremonies so far. Just have them, but we've had wind, and you can't defeat the wind when it comes to a lav mic. So in my situation, as I look at it, it's like, the packs were, I don't know, were they $300 a piece? I don't know. Whatever the packs were, the microphone itself, I think I've got well over $1,200, I believe, into those 4 pieces, because the Countryman element. I wanted to get that tiny little mic element, which sounds like you know, we like to use the Shure 58. Well, it sounds more like the Shure 87. It picks up really, really well. It's like, wow, this sounds cool. I could use this for a regular dance, except it's, as Cubbie mentioned, omnidirectional. So we get back to feedback if you're too close, but otherwise you sound really, really good. Yeah, I just haven't had it work. So I'm hoping in 2 weeks we've got another big ceremony, which we're going to try to do. The groom with one of the labs, the other one we're going to see if we can get the bride in her outfit to pick the two of them up, and then the officiant wants a handheld. So this will be actually potentially the first time of doing it. But if it's too windy, it'll be repeat after me. I, Bill, take you, Susie. You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Couple suggestions to work around for the wind, and I'm not saying it's going to work in your situation, but I know some people have had some potential success with this. One is if you're, and I'm going to use, if the person in a suit is wearing a tie, one thing that you can do is you can clip it to the underside of the tie. So it's not going to be quite as crisp and clear, obviously, as it would be if it was out in the open, but it works that tie ends up working as like a
windshield
breaker for a big case in that. The other thing is, and I know a lot of people that swear by these, and I don't remember the name of them other than to call them the dead cat windscreens. They're the extremely fuzzy ones. Now, the downside is that then they stand out.
Yeah, it looks really...
But... you know, do they stand out more than a big wire, you know, a big handheld being stuck in their face? Again, if you're wanting to use the lav, these are things to look into as possible ways to get around it, or possible ways. I've done under the tie a couple times just because I've had some really like, oh, I was not planning it. This was not the wind that I was expecting.
Yep.
And it's coming from directions. There's no way for me to block this. And so I stuck it under the tie and didn't have an issue after that.
Excellent. Good thought there. I'll have to keep that in mind. Yeah, Gus mentions that officiants are also wanting to use a handheld, and I think in that picture, the pastor, I think he wanted to go handheld because he knew how to hold that, and he knew how to get the vocal that he wanted out of a handheld much more than a lab, because you don't have as much. It's not as hot, I think, and I think that's why. Maybe Gus is running into the same thing, is that they just want to have that presence when they're doing their thing. So,
well, here in Iowa, anybody can marry anybody, and so I get all these rookies. I mean, I'm talking like an uncle, you know, a friend of a friend, and they're not very well experienced, so they get really nervous about holding a hand, you know, trying to hold, you know, their book and everything else, and you know, I don't know. So they really, that's why I've been so successful with lav mics, but don't have the wind up there in the Great Northwest as you do.
Yeah, down there you've got cornfields that block that.
We get cornfield block a lot of stuff.
Go cornfield, go. Okay, let's go to our next question here, gentlemen. All right, our next question. Somebody was asking, what age do you think it would be the time to retire from DJing? And, you know, what's your thoughts behind that? And that why is something I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit more than what our age is. But what are those grounds that are going to make you say, you know what, maybe it's time? If you guys follow Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock on the Disc Jockey News out on our website, discjockeynews.com, a weekly article from Mike's Musing. And Mike talks about this because he's getting to that point in his career. And he's been using many of the little stories and little lessons and things, and, you know, asking some of these types of questions. So if you're interested in this topic or a topic similar, go to discjockeynews.com. You can click into the articles and you can go catch Mike's. It's in that every Tuesday time slot, and get some thoughts from Mike on as he's been asking that question. But guys, what are your thoughts when it comes to retiring from the DJ, or what will be the thing that tells you, why it's time? And I think, Dan, you get to start.
Figures. To be honest, I don't have that answer. I don't want to play this as a coy or anything else. I just don't really know. This is what I love to do. I have loved this from the time that I really started and got into it and started realizing that I could make a career of it. It's not my full-time job. I technically have a full-time job, but I love what I do to the point that I can't imagine not doing it. And so at some point, I have a feeling that I'm going to have to change how I go about it, because the couples are not going to be wanting to have grandpa as their DJ. That's my guess. So at some point, I'm going to be looked at as a grandfather, not as the same age as some of their parents, which has happened a couple of times recently. Um, but in the back of my head, I think of people that are in our industry that are well respected, that are have been DJing, I think, as long as DJing's been a profession, um, and are still doing it and doing well. So at some point, I may need to rebrand and reinvent myself, but I hope to do this until I can't.
Cubbie, do you want to go, or do you just want to punt on this one? And I'll.
As the grandpa of the group, who does have grandkids.
There's a difference. Wait. There's a difference between having grandkids and having grandkids the age of the couples you were doing the wedding for.
Okay.
That's
okay. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, glad you clarified that one, Dan.
So
no, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
That's in 2 or 3 years.
I love you. I love you. Yeah, I'm 57. I make no bones about it. I still have a passion for it. I do find out that I get tired earlier in the season, about October, not so much about November, that I'm just waiting for the season to be over or something. I think if you, and I think, John, we've talked about this off camera a lot of times. If you financially prepare for yourself, you won't have to work until you're 65. Manage your company. That's my goal, is within the next 3 years, to have enough DJs in place to where I can go out and officiate maybe 2 or 3 weddings on a Saturday afternoon and come home. Have enough DJs to where I can spread the business out. I'm covering if I need to, maybe do 1 a month, and I guess when my bookings slow down, like when you said, when the brides and grooms don't want grandpa DJing their wedding, you'll know when your bookings slow down and they start to say, well, I'll take your daughter over you and I'll take this one. You know what I'm saying? I think you're going to know. Could be physically, where your knees are giving out, your legs aren't as bad, your backs are bad, could be a physical thing. But I think you'll know if you lose your passion. And once you lose your passion, you're out. When you don't have fun with it anymore. And we've all been DJing for a long time, but I think you can stay young and fresh. Like I said, I'm 57 and I book out pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people I'm the oldest fish in the pond. That's locally, literally the oldest fish in the pond.
And they
I make no bones about it.
And they keep coming back with word of mouth and referrals and things. And that's how you get business, and it works well. So, first off, we got to give a shout out to Johnny G, 76 years old and still active and with us tonight. Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. I think passion is a huge part of it. And the physicality side of it is, as I talk to DJs who have gotten out of it, it's, it becomes the little things that what at one time would have been quirk and maybe irksome to us. Those little things become bigger, and we just can't get, they make us more angry, make us more frustrated that the brides are asking this of us, or the venues are making us do this. And the things that we would have, 10 years ago, we had been like, yeah, it was whatever. And then we continued on. When those things become so monumental in our lives that it just eats at us, that seems, from the DJs I've talked to that have gotten out, become the big thing, is that they're like, I just don't have the stomach for this anymore. I'm just tired of that. Physical, yes, there are some DJs who have to step out because of physical. Sometimes it's, an unexpected cancer and their world has changed and they can't do. Sometimes it's an injury has taken them out. But even many of the people who have had injuries or have had that have found ways around, got an assistant, or they've changed and they've evolved their show to still be part of what the thing is. I think it's really that passion is what has told a lot of people to get out. And some people that happened at 27. Some people it's been 40. Some people it's 80. Whatever it is, it can vary from everyone. I think it's really a personal thing. Some people have had to get out because of relationships. That it wasn't so much they retired because of age or physical or anything else, or even that the money was, but they were like, it's either I'm either a DJ or I'm no longer married and I lose my family, and those types of things happen. Those are decisions that people made. And I've got DJ friends who made the decision to leave the industry because of that, and they've been happily married ever since. And I've had DJ friends more often than not decide that DJing is more important than their family. It's a sad reality that those decisions, it gets to that point, and we don't walk in their shoes to make that decision for them. It just, from our perspective, seems kind of weird sometimes. But those are the reality of the situation. So. Rob, I'm just going to read Rob's here. Physical part's important, but probably retire and can't get the couples excited about what I'm going to be doing for them for their big day. And I wonder if part of that, Rob, isn't going to be that when you've lost some of that passion, and I'm not saying you have, but any means by, but I feel this at times where it's like, if I'm in a funk and I'm not feeling, that's not driving me right now as far as the excitement of the DJ. And if I don't feel excited about it and I can't present and get them excited about what I can do for them, I can feel that, and I can feel it coming on more and more as I've gotten there, and I can see that being a big part of it, the frustration. So, all right, let's see. Oh, geez, we're gonna do one more, a quick one, and then we'll have to wrap things up. Our final question tonight: how far will you travel to perform an event? And I'm going to put this in a category of basically with your own gear, because there's times where if somebody says, Dan, can you fly out to California and come and do my wedding because you're my favorite cousin? And you're like, no. And they're like, but we'll give you like an In-N-Out burger. And you'd be like, oh, I'm there. So, there's that. So we're going to just take those off the table. Your gear, your vehicle, you go. How far of an area will you travel? And has that changed? I'm going to add that part. Has that changed over the years? And let's see, Dan, are you this one or are you Cubbie? Cubbie, I think you're this one.
Start with the old guy because you said it changed over the years. I mean,
Yeah.
He got more crotchety.
Yeah.
No,
Have you changed since
driving,
the 60s?
right?
Yes, you're driving.
Okay, so living in Des Moines, Iowa, central Iowa, I've done Kansas City, Chicago, Minneapolis, Omaha, Nebraska. Not much further driving than that. Other than that, Elk Point, South Dakota. These are all within driving distances. So wherever they'll take me, yes, I will travel. I explained to them that I need gas money and I need a hotel because I could work locally for the same amount of money, but just not have to go to the expenses. And they get it. If they're willing to pay it, then I'm all excited for them, and I'll be there, like I said. But I'll drive. Chicago's 8 hours, Minneapolis is 4, Kansas City is 4, Omaha's 2 or 3. So being centrally located, within those 4 big metropolitan cities is not bad at all.
Sure.
With traveling gear.
Dan, what is your?
So it was kind of funny because I'm like, farthest is an hour and a half, and then I'm thinking about next April where I'm doing it, it's 4 hours. But under normal circumstances, for somebody who just calls me up and reaches out to me, it's about an hour and a half. That's gotten a little bit further than it used to be, and that was more because of the constraints of the vehicle that I was using than it is what I was willing to do. So,
Sure.
So for those of you that know my story, I used to tow a trailer with a Toyota Corolla. Yes, it can be done. And so, but I was not going to put the constraints of a far distance on that. So an hour and a half or an hour at that point was about my extent. Now I tow with a SUV, a Highlander that has a tow package built into it. I'll go an hour and a half. I don't really like to go more than that, just because at the end, after I'm done tearing down and then I'm driving home that night, I just don't like that feeling of starting to get tired.
Mm-hmm.
And the weariness of that aspect. And I'm not the type to really go, oh, I drove 2 hours, so I need a hotel room. I'd rather be home too.
Mm-hmm.
So the one next April though is for a very close friend of mine, and I think we're still working out whose equipment I'm actually using, whether it's mine or a mixture. But that's, like I said, more the exception than the commonplace.
For myself, it used to be that there were times I was driving 5 hours to events, and I was when we had a staff, I would try to give Lori the nearest one, and then staff in locations that were near their houses or their homes, and then I would take distance unless somebody requested me in a different location. I would take the farthest one. So there was a summer that my nearest wedding was 2 hours from home. Most of them were 3 to 4 hours from home. So every weekend. But at that particular time, I was also DJing 4 to 5 nights a week. So up until 3 or 4 in the morning was coming. It wasn't a big deal for me. The wedding ends at midnight. Hell, that's an hour earlier than my the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday bar show. And then, I ripped down, and I'm still on the road before the bar show would have ended. And then the bar show, I still had an hour drive home. So it's like, it's only a couple of hours later at most. So for today, if it's over 45 minutes, I'm not happy. I mean, as far as because of all the things Dan just said, is that not liking that as much. With that being said, next summer, I've already got 3 of my weddings that are 2+ hours away. But they're weddings for relations to past clients, as far as a brother to a past groom I had. Another one is a cousin. She was at her cousin's wedding, and she was in the wedding party. So those are going to be distance ones. But boy, oh boy, I appreciate the ones that are 10 miles, 5 miles from home where I can go. And I'm in a rural area, so when I can get those, it's really, really nice. And there's not many venues by me. But when I can get one of those and I can go and casually drive and set up, and I can come home and, even if I set some of the gear up the night before, and I can do that. Oh my gosh, it feels so awesome.
As an empty nester, I look forward to it because, as a grandpa again, I get to go with my wife. We this 2 weekends ago, we were in the Amana Colonies, and they put us up at a hotel, and it was the Amana Colonies are very nice in Iowa. So it's just a way that we can get away and as well, and not have to worry about getting home, because we don't have, like Dan, I know you've got 2 children and a wife to get home to, and Dan, you got 18 kids, and you get home to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So like I said, as an empty nester, we look forward to going out when an opportunity arises, that we just get to go together and spend time together on the road, and
that would be fun.
Load in, load out. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Road trip.
I thought you were gonna say you like to be far away so that you're gone longer.
Yeah.
not realizing you took your wife with you. So
yeah, we, like I said, it's fun. We just have a good time going on traveling together.
Oh man, Rob, I haven't booking a Saturday and Sunday wedding at the same venue. Oh, haven't done that it happened like twice in my whole time. Cubbie, you had one of those. Was it this year or last year?
Yeah, and you know what? Next year, I swear to God, I even gave her a discount. I got a triple decker, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all in the same wedding.
Oh my gosh,
all in the same venue. And oh my God,
they're going to just introduce you.
Bride.
Yeah, they're going to introduce Cubbie as, there's our house DJ.
Yeah.
Well, for this week.
Sunday bride, a discount. It's like, if I just leave that stuff, because Sunday to me is extra money, right?
Yeah.
That's like found money. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll tell you what, I'll even give you $200 off.
Yeah, he's 3 days in a row. That's got to be a record there.
You're gonna have some serious deja vu by the end of that, though.
The names, yeah.
Sometimes back to back, but when you're in the same venue and you're like, especially by Sunday, you're like, wait a minute, did I play that tonight, or was that last night, or wait a minute, was that Friday night?
Yeah, you got to count on the little.
When did I play that stupid song?
The little red.
I use
red
virtual
check.
DJ, so it turns it pink if I used it. So
yeah, there
I'm
you go.
good.
You have to be watching.
Every day we reset it. Yep.
Funny. All right, guys, let's wrap things up. So we got tomorrow. Tuesday morning, there's a little video that pops. Tomorrow evening, they'll be doing the recording of the Tuesday night music show at 10 o'clock Eastern. Tonight, in a few minutes, Hanging with Howie, they're going to be doing their recording tonight at DJNTV.com/chill. That is our kind of a DJ networking room. You can go in there tonight. They'll be recording in there, and then after that, they open things up so people can talk and have that hallway chat. But after gigs, this past weekend, I popped in there again. I've been back and forth a couple of times, and it's like in the evenings, any time of the week, there's people that bounce in and out of there. But there's been after shows when people are driving home, because you can literally log in via your cell phone, throw it in the seat next to you, and you've got your headset, and you can carry on a conversation. It's actually really cool for those of us who have those longer drives. And there hopefully is folks from around the. I think one of the times I was in there was somebody from South Africa in there, and somewhere in Europe. The two of them were chatting away. I don't remember the names because it was a little tough to hear over my diesel rumbling, because they had stronger accents and such, or at least as far as I was concerned, it was an accent. And they were like, "You've got such an American accent." Yes, I do. It's a northern Minnesota one too.
Don't you know?
Yeah, don't you know? So that'll be going tonight, tomorrow night in the chill room. You can go pop out there. Dan's got his Wednesday morning spot, and then Wednesday evening we'll be running some of the past Howie and the chat or the music show videos. Coming up here in mid-October, if you haven't seen some of the teasers, we're going to be introducing a new show here on DJNTV. We're going to be having the Big Daddy show, where Big Daddy's going to be introducing us to some people you might know that are newer to the DJ industry, but some of the younger DJs out there who are getting into the industry and starting to develop that training side of what they do and sharing some of the knowledge that they have. They look at a lot of things a lot differently than Cubbie and I do, for surely, because we're like old as dirt. Dan's not quite that old yet. He just, acts like it sometimes because, he's an old spirit. Old soul.
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Anyway, but that's so. Big Daddy's got a passion for really the next generation coming into that realm. So he's going to be running we've got 2 seasons. We're going to be doing a fall season, and then we're going to be doing a spring season of the Big Daddy show, and that'll be coming to us in mid-October. So you guys will be able to get more information on that, and when that show drops, should be a lot of fun. We're getting Big Daddy. I mean, he's been working out and eating his vitamins and saying his prayers and, getting ready to kick things off for us and such. And for those people who are going to be on the show, there's the Smile Loudly bag. That's what, if you saw it on Instagram, that's what that bag was. And yeah, there's a goodie bag that a lot of our sponsors from DJNTV have got some swag in there. So if you want to be on Big Daddy's show and such, reach out to him and he'll see if he can get you in on the schedule and tell your story. So, other one, I think we're good to go, guys. We got to, oh goodness, we're almost 9 o'clock. Dan, take us home.
So thank you very much for taking time on your Monday night to join us. Hopefully we were able to answer your question. And if not, we've added to the list and we'll get to it at some point. But we do appreciate everybody who participated as well as listened and tuned in. Have yourself a great night, and we'll see you next time.